Federal Reserve decided yesterday to cut interest rates by 1/4 percentage point. So this is the range of 4.50 to 4.75%.
So here to tell us as far as what this means for us is CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger, who joins us now live from New York. Jill, let's start with this. Last meeting, we know the Fed cut it by 1/2 percentage point. This time, it was 1/4 percentage point. What makes the change this time? Why did they change it this time?
You know, in September, Chair Powell said they wanted to get a, quote, good, strong start with that 1/2 percentage point. It was the first of this rate-cutting cycle. But at yesterday's meeting, the Fed said, look, the economy is growing at a solid pace, and the inflation rate is not back to where we want it to be. So we're going to go with 1/4 percentage point, and hopefully gradually that inflation rate will come down more and will cut by even more. But they've got to bring that inflation rate down to their target.
We know there's one final Fed meeting this year expected in December, and I'm wondering if the election results change what could likely happen in December.
I don't think so, because right now odds are for another 1/4 percentage point cut in December. Of course, what happens next year is completely dependent on the policies of the next administration. And some of those policies could lead to, I would say, higher than expected inflation right now. So if we get big tax cuts or the extension of tax cuts or tariffs, that can actually push inflation higher. That might mean that next year the Fed could go slower in reducing interest rates, but we'll have to wait and see.
Could they hike them again?
It would be very unlikely. I mean, we would have to see inflation surge for that to happen.
Okay.
Jill, I'm curious because you just mentioned the uncertainty as far as next year. Well, what about the fate of Chair Jerome Powell? What happens with him in the future?
I like to say that President-elect Trump and Powell described their relationship as it's complicated because, you know, then President Trump elevated Powell to lead the Fed, and that started in early 2018. But then the president really trash-talked Powell while he was still in office. As he started his campaign, he was very critical of the Fed. He seemed to shift a little bit over the summer. And yesterday, I thought this was fascinating. Jerome Powell was asked directly by a journalist, would you step down as Fed chair if President-elect Trump asks you to? He looks at the camera. Powell says no. That means Powell will be chair of the Federal Reserve until his term ends in May of 2026. At that time, the president can replace him.
All right. Jill Schlesinger, live for us in New York. Jill, thank you. Just a reminder, you can see Jill regularly on the CBS Mornings and CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell. For more analysis, you can go to jillonmoney.com.